Welcome, everybody, to today's program, Why Use Donor Advised Funds. This will be an introduction to donor advised funds, and I am proud and honored to introduce my friend and colleague, Hiram Grenny. He is the Director of Partnerships at UI Charitable Advisors, and we're going to spend about 20 minutes today outlining what you should know about donor advised funds. We would love you to ask questions. We hope that you will ask them in the chat, and I will monitor it and make sure we get to them at the end of Hiram's prepared marks. The webinar will be recorded, so anybody who either wants to follow up or take notes, no worries. We'll make sure that the recording is posted in an easily accessible place. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Hiram to get the program started. Over to you, Hiram.
Thank you, Sarah. Excited to be here. As Sarah mentioned, I run all of our partnerships at UI Charitable Advisors. So that means working with financial advisors, CPAs, trust and estate attorneys, anyone working on setting up donor advised funds or other charitable vehicles for clients. And really excited to be here in partnership as well with TradePMR. When I first met TradePMR, the overlap and the relationship was really obvious and easy because of their high touch and highly customized approach to working with advisors. They from the beginning have had a very white glove approach, and that's exactly our approach to donor advised funds and charitable giving with our advisors. So excited to work with them. They're a wonderful partner, and grateful to present to their audience as well today. So when we talk about donor advised funds, I guess I'll talk about why donor advised funds matter, why charitable giving matters, kind of donor advised funds in general and our approach to them, and then a couple of specific strategies for how you can implement DAFs into your practice with clients. So the natural first question that advisors ask is, why should I care? Why do I care about these charitable giving strategies? Why should I have these conversations with clients? It's becoming a hotter and hotter topic, but why? And there's more and more research coming out to show exactly why. This particular study is really interesting. It's an analysis of over 1,200 RIAs and family offices that looked at firms that do offer charitable giving versus firms that don't offer charitable giving. How do they compare and contrast based on size and success and a lot of different metrics? And of all the metrics they gathered, three particular ones really stood out to us. The first was this one, that firms that do offer charitable planning have 6 times the median assets of firms that don't. So these are just larger firms. And on top of that, firms that do offer charitable planning see 3 times the organic growth. So this is the healthy, sustainable growth that all of us seek and value when it comes to running an organization. And it was obvious that firms that offer charitable planning outperform those that don't. It was really as simple as that. And lastly, the stat that I found the most interesting is that 27% more clients said that their advisors or their firms were a multi-generational resource to their families. As a service provider, we're in the same boat as you advisors. That's the highest compliment you can get, is someone saying, you've done such a good job with me that I want to refer you to my loved ones. I want to refer you to the friends and family that I care about the most. That's as high of a compliment as it gets. And that's a big part of what charitable planning does. It forms a deeper relationship than just investments. Turns out clients want to have conversations about their passions. They want it to be a more close-knit relationship with their service providers, specifically with their financial advisors. And a great way to do that is to talk about charitable planning and what clients really care about. And so we found that a very impactful stat. Let's grow the businesses together by offering charitable planning. So the next question is, we know that charitable giving matters. We know that we should be having these conversations. But once I understand my clients' passions, once I know what they want to give to, what's my next step? What's a tool that I can use to actually help them? And many of you will be familiar with donor advised funds already. We call them DAFs for short. But I will give a quick overview on exactly what a DAF is and how they work. It's a great tool that's skyrocketing in popularity. DAFs are essentially just a charitable savings account that you've set up for a client. So clients can make a charitable contribution to this DAF. They get an immediate tax deduction when they make that donation. and then they make grants to their favorite charities over time. It's a very flexible, easy to use tool where clients can get the tax benefit immediately and then decide charitably what they want to do. And when you model it out, it's a little bit easier to digest here. Here's transaction number one. This is the donation going to the DAF. And that's when the tax deductible donation occurs. And then the transaction number two is going out to the end charities, whatever your client, that's the Boys and Girls Club, the Red Cross, whatever your client really cares about supporting, that's what they can make grants to from their DAF. So what it does is it separates the timing of the charitable donation, their tax benefit, from the timing of their actual giving. Some clients don't know what they want to support right now. Some clients may have an idea, but they want to spread it out over time. DAFs are just great because they can be used for all of those use cases. They just preserve the optionality of saying, I want to give now, I want to give later, I want to give more this year and less next year, but get the full tax benefit and be able to really time it the way I want to. That's how DAFs are used. And for you as the advisor, one of the biggest benefits of DAFs is that while funds sit here in the DAF, you're able to manage those accounts. You're able to invest the funds, they grow tax-free, and the client can see that growth, and you can continue having these charitable conversations over time with your clients. We think that that's a full loop that you should do. You should have the initial conversation, talk about why they should set up the DAF, but then you should continue managing the DAF so you can keep having that conversation of, here's how your DAF's performing, what have you been supporting, and really just be in touch with your clients and what they're funding with their charitable passions. So that's DAFs. That's a quick look at DAFs and how they work. There are many, many DAF providers out there. And some of the big ones that you're probably familiar with are like the Fidelity and the Schwab Charitables. And a lot of them have slight differences on how they do donor advised funds. A lot of them have different restrictions they've placed on donor advised funds, saying you can and can't do this. We saw that as a real pain point in the world of DAFs, that there's a lack of innovation, a lack of creativity, and more than anything, a lack of flexibility. Guardrails were set that didn't need to be set. And we came in and we wanted to say, let's make these as flexible as we can possibly make them. The goal is helping clients achieve their charitable aspirations. So let's use this great flexible tool that is a DAF to help clients do that. That was our vision. So we talk about that in three areas. The first is the types of assets that can go into the DAF, contributing assets to the DAF. The second is how those assets are managed within the DAF. That's where you as the advisor come in the most. And then the third is what your clients can do charitably out of the DAF. What can they send money to? Jumping into that a little bit, the assets that can go in, the traditional assets, any donor advised fund will be really good at doing. Any DAF can take cash, can take public securities. Those are really easy. You're sending a check or a wire, or you're journaling shares into an account. It's as simple as that. But what we've noticed with high net worth clients that are attractive to financial advisors is that it's becoming more and more popular for them to do the non-traditional work. They want to, when they're selling businesses, they want to set up a DAF alongside that. They want to donate real estate when they're selling their house or selling a rental property. Cryptocurrency is becoming something, especially the last few months in Q4 of last year, as it spiked, a really popular asset that people want to donate that's highly appreciated. So there's all of these privately held assets. It's an entire world that high net worth clients have a lot of that make the most sense for their financial strategy. And having a DAF provider that can facilitate donations of these complex assets is really important. And you as the advisor have something in your tool belt where you're able to say, let's set up a DAF alongside this private business sale. The benefit to doing that, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in a few minutes, but the real benefit to doing some of these private assets like private businesses, real estate, is that there's a double tax benefit on it. When you donate equity in a business before the sale, you eliminate capital gains tax on the portion you donate, and you get a fair market value tax deduction. So it's similar to cash where you get the fair market value deduction, but you never have to recognize that gain as the client. And we'll look at a case study and some specifics on how that actually works. But it's a great tool to not only help your current clients, but meet other business owners that are selling businesses. We see this as a prospecting tool for advisors all the time, where they'll say, hey, look at this cool strategy of how you can donate this business before the sale. And then all of a sudden their partner wants to do it as well. And you're having conversations with 3 or 4 business owners. So having a DAF that can help you execute on this is critical. And we really have developed the expertise in dealing with these complex assets efficiently and cost effectively. That's the real pain point we've seen in the DAF world. Many DAFs can take these assets, but it's expensive and it's an arduous process. We've tried to iron out that process and do it very simply and cost effectively. That's part one, assets going into the DAF. Part two is how the advisor is able to retain control of the assets. How do you manage these accounts as an advisor? Our goal with this portion was to say, how do we help these DAF accounts feel like they're non-DAF accounts? How do we help them feel just like another regular account for financial advisors? And that's where TradePMR has also been a great partner, is we've made it really easy to open these DAF accounts and let the advisor manage them from the first dollar that goes in. They can use their preferred custodian, in this case, TradePMR. They can use all of their models and investments that they would typically use with non-DAF accounts. They charge their fee because they're putting in the work, so you should charge a fee. And you can even make private alternative investments. So really, the whole idea here is that these DAF accounts look and feel like any other account to you as the advisor. They're set up slightly differently because the DAF is the client in this relationship. We're the actual registered owner on the paperwork. But from an investment and a management standpoint, it's the exact same as any other account. That's how these DAFs are set up. So part one, assets coming in, all kinds of different assets can be donated. You as the advisor stay in control and you're managing these accounts. And then part three is the fun stuff for us as the DAF. How do we help your clients actually do their giving? And 99% of clients do this top one right here. They give grants to domestic or US-based nonprofit organizations. That's what they want to do, and that's great. We can help clients achieve that. But again, the high net worth clients often have creative and more special, customized things they want to do charitably. And that's where we thrive as well, is in the complexity in the charitable world of when clients want to do something internationally, or when clients want to give to an organization that may not actually be registered as a 501c3, an IRS approved nonprofit. They can do all kinds of different funding mechanisms, whether that's a recoverable grant, a loan, an equity investment, lots of different options that most clients, like I said, don't necessarily use all the time, but it's an option where we want this to feel like we're your philanthropic back office. We want to be your philanthropic experts. So when clients have these questions about, hey, I spent some time in Southeast Asia and I want to help give back to somebody I met there or a charity I met there, we can help facilitate that and help your clients execute. It opens up a whole world of creativity when it comes to philanthropy and allows you to have some more conversations with clients. So that's how we've set up our DAF, adding flexibility every step of the way. That was our primary goal. And now what I think some of the fun stuff is some strategies for how you actually implement DAFs. So we'll look at numbers and specific strategies for how you can help clients actually set up a strategy for using donor advised funds. And the first is a common one that some of you may have seen. It's called charitable bunching. And it's used for clients that are charitably inclined. They make consistent charitable donations each year, whether generally they're going to be a little bit smaller, but they're consistent. And it could be to multiple charities. It could be a single charity, but they're making these charitable contributions, itemizing on their taxes, and getting some benefit from it. And actually, they don't have to necessarily itemize. They could be taking the standard deduction, but they're doing this giving, right? They're charitably inclined and they want to do giving with what they can. So what you do with charitable bunching is you're front loading multiple years worth of this giving into year one and getting a larger deduction. You're itemizing, of course, when you do that, getting a larger tax benefit in year one, and then doing all of your giving from the DAF over time for the next 3, 5, whatever the number of years is. You're just doing DAF giving because you got that larger tax benefit already in year one. So let's look at how those numbers actually work out here. This is a married couple that donates $15,000 per year to several different charities. Okay. So this is without charitable bunching. This is just normally how they would give to taxes or give to charity and claim it on their taxes. And this is a very oversimplified version of their tax filings. We recognize that, but for the sake of the numbers, it makes it easy to understand. So years 1 through 5 years worth, they're giving $15,000 each year. They have their state and local taxes, their mortgage interest, and then they itemize. So that makes their total yearly itemized deduction $31,000. That's $3,300 over the standard deduction. Okay, so it's giving them some benefit. It makes sense for them to itemize. They're getting that benefit. And their total donations over 5 years are $75,000, and their total tax deduction over 5 years, the 31,000 times 5, is 155 grand. Makes sense. They're saving some money. They should be itemizing, but is there a better way to do this? Let's look at charitable bunching. Same scenario, married couple donating several different charities each year. And now they're making a donation to a DAF in year 1. They're donating 5 years worth of their charitable contributions to a DAF in year 1 and itemizing on year 1. So they're getting a deduction of $75,000 in year 1. They have the same state and local taxes, same mortgage interest, making their total itemized deduction $91,000, which is 63 grand greater than the standard deduction. So of course they're making this huge donation in year 1. They're going to get a larger deduction, right? So let's look at how years 2 through 5 look. Years 2 through 5, they don't have to worry about it. They're doing all of their giving out of the DAF. They've got their tax benefit up front. So now they're just taking the standard deduction, which is $27,700. They're taking that for the next 4 years, making a grand total of just under 111 grand. So the two numbers that matter the most here at the bottom, total donations over 5 years, just like you saw 2 slides ago, it's still the $75,000, but their total tax deduction over the 5 years is now over 200 grand. Okay, so significantly more than what we saw if they were to not use charitable bunching. So the number we care about more than any is how much are they actually saving over the standard deduction? Is this actually that good for them? Without charitable bunching, they're saving $16,500 over the standard deduction. Again, makes sense, good, not great. With charitable bunching, over 5 years, they are $63,300 over the standard deduction. So that's more than 3 times the tax savings simply by changing the timing of this donation. I recognize that all clients don't have the cash position to be able to do this, but if you do have clients that might, and even if it's not 15 grand and putting 75 grand into a DAF up front, it's smaller amounts than that. Most of the time, the numbers could still work out. So just by getting kind of their ducks in a row, making this donation to a DAF, figuring out how to make grants out of a DAF over time, they are saving 3 times as much on their tax over 5 years. So no brainer to try and implement charitable bunching. Another small benefit to doing this through a DAF is when a client's giving to several different charities, DAFs simplify all of their giving. They get 1 tax receipt rather than 7, and they just go log into an online portal for 30 seconds and make grants out of this DAF rather than you or the client having to facilitate these donations to the end charities on your own. So there's a simplicity argument to it as well, but charitable bunching is a great savings strategy. The final case study I want to look at is gifting private business interest. I mentioned that this is a very popular and gaining popularity strategy for high net worth clients that are selling these businesses. More people know that you can do this now. And so it's something that should be talked about anytime a major asset is being sold. The 2 big benefits, which I referenced earlier, are similar to when you donate a public security to a DAF, right? When you donate a public security, you are doing this, you like to donate a low basis security because the client then doesn't have to recognize that gain on the security. That's how they avoid the capital gains tax, and they get the fair market value tax deduction for the value of that security they donated. With private assets, the same rules apply. You eliminate capital gains tax on the portion that's donated, and they get a fair market value deduction for whatever that asset is that they're putting into the DAF. So if that's business interest, real estate, cryptocurrency, whatever the value is on the day they donate it, that's the deduction they'll get. So let's look at a case study here. This is a family that wants to be charitably active. They're selling a debt-free business for $10 million. The debt-free matters because that can affect the tax deduction potentially. So for simplicity's sake, we're saying that it's debt-free. And they're looking at a heavy tax burden on this. They've got a 20% capital gains tax, 7% state tax, making a total of 27%. And their brilliant financial advisor comes to them and says, let's donate $2 million worth of equity before the sale to this DAF to accomplish your philanthropic goals. We're going to eventually have cash in this account by doing this, and you're going to get a bigger tax benefit. So let's make this happen before the sale, switch the timing of when we normally would do this. Here's how the numbers work out. The sale price, so we're going to look at both sides of it, before the sale and after the sale. If you were to donate after the sale and not do what this brilliant advisor is suggesting, here's what it looks like. Sale price is $10 million. There's no donation prior. Their cost basis is 100 grand, making their taxable amount 9.9 million. So they're going to get hammered with taxes. And here it is, 2.6 million in taxes, making their after-tax equity 7.3 million. Now comes the donation. They make that $2 million donation. This is cash now that the business is sold, 2 million to a DAF. That brings their final equity to 5.3 million. They get their gift tax deduction and their income tax savings. There we're assuming a 44% tax bracket, so an $880,000 income tax savings, making their final equity plus tax savings $6.2 million. Okay, that's how that one works out. That's cash after the sale. Let's look over at what happens if we were to change the timing of it, similar to bunching. All this is a timing switch from doing it after the sale to getting our ducks in a row and doing it before the sale. And what happens? The sale price is still 10 million. This donation happens pre-sale. The cost basis is still 1 million, but here's where you see the first big difference. The taxable amount, instead of the 9.9 million, it's now just 7.9 million. That's how much they're facing. Their taxes are 2.1. Their after-tax equity now is 5.8 million, so that's still lower because they made the pre-sale donation. But here's where it comes back up. Their final equity is now 5.8 million. They still get the same gift tax deduction and the same income tax savings. They got the same fair market value on that donation they made of equity. And so the number that really matters is their final equity plus tax savings is now 6.74 million, just over 500K greater than when they did it after the sale, when they donated cash post-sale. So in summary, the family qualifies for an immediate tax deduction. They get that $2 million tax deduction for the fair market value of the business. They don't pay capital gains on that $2 million chunk that went to the DAF, and they did this before the sale. And just switching the timing of that $2 million donation saved $540,000 net after taxes. That's how big of a benefit that is. It's a quarter of the entire donation amount is how much they're saving. So the bottom line with all of this is that DAFs are a really cool, really flexible tool, and that by separating the timing, by using them and separating the timing of the tax deduction from the timing of the charitable gift, you can actually optimize for both. We believe that we want to give clients the best tax savings that they can possibly have, just as you do as an advisor. And then we want to help them fund their charitable passions. And by implementing these strategies, by choosing a donor advised fund host that can help facilitate that for you, you can optimize for both and strengthen these relationships with clients. Thank you. So now we'll open it up. Sarah will help us facilitate a few questions here.
Thanks, Hiram. Oh, there we go. There I am. We do have a couple of questions. The first one is, we have a very astute attendee who says, seems like no one should donate cash. So Hiram, can you spend a minute just talking about what types of assets can be contributed to a donor advised fund? And in the case of charitable bunching, it looked like that would only work for cash. Just flesh that out a little bit for our viewers.
Yeah, that's a great call out. And we align with that belief that it does seem like no one should donate cash. Cash is the ultimate last resort. Charitable bunching, it shows the example does seem to show that it would be cash, but it could be any asset that you bunch and you do in year one to get that larger tax benefit, and then do all of your giving out of the DAF over time. So for example, that business case study that we looked at, that could be bunched in the same way, where we're saying this family's not necessarily giving out $2 million to charity in year one, but they're making this larger donation. They're getting the tax benefit in year one, and then they're doing their giving for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years out of the DAF over time. That tax benefit as well, I should say, can also roll over for up to 5 years. So if their income wasn't so high that they could use that full $2 million tax benefit in year one, they could stretch that tax benefit out and use it for up to 5 years. And I think that answered part of the question. What did I miss?
No, I think maybe spend a second discussing what kind of assets what other assets other than cash can be contributed, and what is the process for doing that?
Yeah. So really any asset. We've seen all kinds of really unique things come across our tables. We do a lot with businesses, we do a lot with real estate. Cryptocurrency has become very popular. And then we've done a lot with all kinds of private investments. We've done VC, PE funds, real estate funds, all kinds of different things. And then even some collectibles and different interesting, really unique kind of fun assets that we've looked at as well. So yes, it's generally going to be much more beneficial from a tax perspective to donate a low basis asset that is not cash so that the client never has to recognize that gain and still gets the same fair market value deduction.
Thank you. So to that end, so what would be the steps of beginning this process? How does somebody go about opening a DAF?
Yeah. So it's pretty simple. We have an online portal where the client can do all of their giving and set up everything with their DAF. The advisor will also have access to the portal. So we'll get you and your client set up on our portal. We'll help you open the TradePMR custodial account where the assets will actually sit and be invested, and then you can fund the account. So it's as simple as that. We have kind of a step-by-step guide that we can send you on how that actually works, but it's fairly simple. Step 3 is the one of funding the account that can be a little bit different depending on what the asset is. So if you're trying to fund it with a business or real estate, there's a legal process where we'll transfer that ownership from wherever it currently sits with your client to the DAF. That's going to be different than journaling shares into a TradePMR account. So step 3, there's some contact potentially between us and the advisor. But for the most part, that's the 1, 2, 3.
So Hiram, one last question, and that is, what are the top 3 or 4 questions an advisor should be, answering in choosing a DAF provider?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the obvious one is, can it help my clients achieve their goals? If my clients want to donate complex assets, can my DAF do that? If my clients want to give to a small charity in Ghana, can it help me do that? So those are the obvious ones, I think. Can it accommodate the needs of my clients? But some of the ones that advisors don't often realize that they should ask are around the management of the accounts as well. How in the loop is the advisor? How seamless is the operational process? And am I able to manage these assets in an easy way for me and my back office team? And that's where we've tried to plug in with TradePMR to say, look at how you can manage these accounts the same way you would any other.
Well, thank you, Hiram. We're just about at 27 minutes, so we so appreciate everybody joining us today, and we look forward to meeting you either virtually or in person sometime very soon. Please let us know if we can answer any questions, and we look forward to meeting you personally. Thanks, Hiram.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.